Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I think we still have a couple of folks that are kind of filtering in from the lobby, but it's right at the hour. So I think we will go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is John Bonin. I'm an account exec here at Gideon Taylor covering GT eForms. And this is another exciting Lunch and Learn. It feels like just yesterday that we released 3.7, so I can't believe that Jay and team have already put together another release. Today in Streamline, Style, and Scale, we are going to walk you through the latest and greatest features in 3.75. And your presenters for today are Jay Jorgensen, Senior Technical Analyst and Team Lead, Sean Brett, Senior BA, and the eForms Assistant, who just joined us in 3.7 and apparently has already been promoted to Senior eForms Assistant. So he must be because of all the great feedback we've received from our customers that are using them. Jay, Sean, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, thanks, John. We'll get started. Yes, our eForms Assistant will be joining us today to help me get through this presentation and make sure that I ask all the right stuff. So for our agenda today, what's new in GT eForms 3.75? All the questions that you see throughout this presentation are actually from our environment. This isn't some movie magic that we put together. So feel free to ask as you get this installed in your environment of all the cool things that are coming up. So new in 3.75, we're going to demonstrate the UI Redwood styling upgraded user experience. It's modern, it's more engaging, it's more user-friendly, and more accessible. Bunch of cool new tools for form builders, which I'm especially excited about. There's an all segments field page that we'll look at that gives a consolidated page where you can make adjustments to your form fields without having to dig into pages and segments or go into the data pool and go to the form field links to make adjustments to those things. There's a bulk eForm processing tool in case you need to make batch updates to a bunch of forms in your system using a custom code that you can develop to make that happen. We've got an enhanced search configuration options that I'll demonstrate, labels, language support, a bunch of cool things that you can do with the search config. Segment notes, which seems like a very small thing, but may end up being one of my favorite features. Just a place to kind of keep track of what it is that you've built as part of your form. And then another really cool thing that is intended to save you some time is an option to open up your task links directly from your form setup without having to go through a bunch of navigation to see how your build's going. We're going to revisit eForms Assistant, which will be helping us out throughout the presentation today. Configurable CI, if you haven't had a chance to look at that yet, and how we've already implemented that in some recent projects. And then the query view builder for those functional folks that sort of need that option to be able to build views from the queries that you developed. All right. So how about this Redwood styling stuff? You can now apply style sheets directly to your form types per form type. So you can develop your own custom style sheets. You can use the default style sheet that we're going to provide for you for all of your new form types that will be based on our Redwood design. You can apply multiple style sheets and control the order so that they apply in the order that you apply them to the form type in case you need to override styles or have a little bit more control over how those styles work. The default styles that we provide to you that are part of the system, you can create your own styles to apply to your form types. And then there's a bulk page option. So if you have a particular style sheet that you want to apply to multiple form types at once, we give you an option to do that. All right, so a quick little before and after what you're used to seeing today and what you can expect to see whenever you do your upgrade. First, all this is in configuration under your standard managed GT eForms functional setup, system setup, and there's going to be a new page there for form type styles. So any of you that have had the luck of going through intro to config training might recognize the security form here on the left-hand side. You've got your labels, you've got your field data that's populated, you've got your grid and all the roles that this particular user has. And after applying the new style sheet, You can see that it looks a little bit different. You've got your labels within the actual field, data still there. Grid looks a little bit different, so there are some changes, and to better demonstrate that, just a quick little look at this. So here's the before version of that famous security form. We've got our standard search. Scroll down, you can get through all the roles for this particular individual. You've got your action items, you've got your buttons. So what we'll do now is hop over to the form type styles page. And I'm going to pause it here. So on this page, we've got our first tab, this form type style. You can see that there is a list of forms in this particular environment, pretty clean environment, so there's not a ton in there. But any new forms that you create in 3.75 going forward are going to have this G3 form Redwood default CSS style that's defaulted in for that form type. It's not automatically active for the forms that get built, but you can go to this configuration page, check the box, save, and then instantaneously see the results of that adjustment. So we change it for this.
There, Sean, really
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
So, like Sean said, all of your existing forms, it'll be opt-in to turn on Redwood styling. So you don't have to be worried about installing 3.75 and then needing to do change management with your users or anything like that. When you're ready to turn it on for your existing forms, it'll be ready for you to flip a switch on that. All new form types that you create will have Redwood styling turned on by default, so you can turn it off. And I think when we made those videos, we didn't have a feature yet. We added something in last minute to 3.75 where you can turn Redwood styling on and off actually in form setup. You don't have to go to that separate setup page anymore to turn on Redwood. There's just a checkbox now in form setup that you can toggle Redwood styling on and off for a form, just so you all know. Though that setup table is cool for other reasons, which I think we talk about a little bit later. But for Redwood, you don't need it. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Thanks, Jay. No, that's great. So after applying that style sheet, you can immediately see some changes here. The buttons are a little different. And then looking at the security form after these have been applied, you can get a better sense of all the changes that have been made and how it looks. So I think one of the bigger things to point out is this particular grid. Prompt searches that come up, a little bit different styling. The grid's not expanding over the entire page. There's a scroll area for it now, so it's a little quicker to get around on the form itself. And then in case you missed it, again, the buttons, action items, everything is nice and pretty and easy to navigate. And we're very excited to have this out in the wild. For the form style bulk add option, it's a separate tab on that setup page. In this case, gone through and done a search for form family. It pulls in the different form types for that particular family, and you can determine which style sheet you would want to add, whether that's to a subset of the forms that are in that family, or you can apply to all forms that are within the family and save those changes there. So quick way to apply a style sheet to multiple forms within your form families.
Could I comment really quick, Sean?
Of course.
So on this one, we built this to make it easier for clients to turn on and off Redwood styling as needed. But this also makes it easier to apply custom styles system-wide for all of your forms or specific forms. Historically, if you wanted to make changes to the way a form looks and feels with a style sheet, you had to have a developer create a style sheet in App Designer, write the style rules and all that, and then use code to apply it for a form. And then even if you needed the same styling to apply to all of your forms, a developer had to go in and write code to add the style sheet to the form for every single form type. Whereas this setup page now, the style sheet still needs to be created with, which actually functionals can do if they have the expertise. But once a style sheet is ready to go, you can configure it now to be used for every single form type instead of having to have a developer go and add it to every form type for you. That was it. Back to you, Sean.
Cool. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, anything else that you want to cover before we move on to the next topics for all segment fields?
Thank you.
Awesome. Yep. All right. It's going through. Asked our assistant here, what's the deal with this all segment fields going on? So this is a very nifty spot. If you've ever gone through and tried to make adjustments to your form fields, how things are hooked up, how you initialize values, all the different properties that you have for your fields, you know that you have to dig into the pages, you have to dig into the segments, you have to find the field, make your adjustment in the field details, or go to like your data pool and go to form field links and change your initializations and update when source changes options there. What we provide for you in this case is a consolidated page that gives you access to all that stuff in one location, directly within your form setup. So you can make adjustments to things like your field labels, how you initialize and update the values for your fields, display options, visibility, show hide, just the visual ifs for when fields are required. And this is what that page looks like. Got a quick recording. Before I start that, new tab, all segment fields within your form setup. You can filter which fields that you're looking for based on the segment that they exist in, based on the record tag that they exist in, or if you're looking for a specific field and you know what it's called, you can use that search there as well. If you have a field named the same thing, but you're using them in multiple record tags or like within a grid and within a column segment, you can pull those back in with the search. Once you have your results and you've got your list of things that you want to work on, you have two tabs you can switch between: the properties and the form field links. So that gives you the different options between adjusting things like the label, like display only, required, show, and then these work the same as in your field details setup. So anywhere you have a dynamic option, you get your visual if directly on this page where you can make adjustments. And then same for the form field links. You can choose if they're initialized for constants, smart sources, data pool, and then you get the appropriate options for those. So I will show this. So filtering out by all of the fields that are in PageRec. We're going to get to this opera class. You can open up that field detail segment, your segment directly from here by clicking on the segment link. You can make your adjustments. In this case, we're going to set the primary permission list to required, apply the changes, and you can see that that is updated in the segment. Again, anywhere that you can set dynamic, you get your visual if, and you get the visual if builder to be able to do that as well. Form field links tab, same sort of configuration if you're used to using this tab on the data pool, where you can do your initializations and your different options for initializations here. All right, so hopefully you all will find this to be a big time saver whenever you're trying to go in and make adjustments to your fields. All right, next piece that we're going to go through is bulk processing. So this is a feature that will allow you to update form data using the logic that you build out for it. What we give you for this is a run control page, obviously, with some parameters that you can fill in to determine what the code is going to run against. And you're going to build your custom code to process or reprocess forms, update data, whatever it is that you decide needs to happen whenever you run this process. If you've used the form key update utility in the past, and I would guess that many of you have, it's very similar to that, but it's much more flexible, and you really have complete control over what is going to get updated whenever you configure this process. All right, so this is a quick look at the page. I'm going to turn most of the time over to Jay to talk about this this option for you. This is the run control page, so you can set your parameters for form families, status, form types. You can adjust dates, form ranges, reprocess options, and then a location for your custom code that will control the logic. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jay for all the details.
Sure. So the easiest way to describe this page is to describe a use case which our clients hit all of the time, and until now we haven't had a super nice solution for them. But say, for example, you have a form in production and it's working great, but you realize you need to make a change. Maybe you need to add a new field to your form for something like that. So you do that in development, and that's all great, except all of your forms in prod, all of your previous form IDs, they don't have the new field on them, or maybe you need to adjust the keys, or all of those things. Your previous forms in production don't have that information. The main use case for this bulky form processing tool is for cases like that, where you need to do something to a batch of form IDs easily and quickly. So, for example, you add this new field or these new batch of fields to your forms in your development environment, you move it up the stack. You can have a developer write a little code snippet that will go then add the field to your existing form IDs and populate them with data that's relevant. And this tool makes it really easy to do so. It's a little bit intimidating to look at, but you have all of these different settings that will allow a functional user to filter, to define the right batch of form IDs that you want to do something to. And then the tool will keep track of things like, did the form process successfully or not? And if it did, it won't process on subsequent runs for that form ID for you. So it's just a way to, hey, I need to do something to a bunch of form IDs. Instead of having to build the entire process from scratch, which is what we've had to do previously, now GT delivers a tool that will bulk process form IDs for you. And we deliver code helpers to make it easier than ever for your developers to write that code. The tool is very useful, and I think that on the product team, we will probably use this to help with certain kinds of upgrade activities for future framework versions and that kind of thing. So just a nice little utility that'll make this kind of thing easier than it ever has been.
Very cool. Thanks, Jay. All right. Next on the list, we have our enhanced search config. So again, if you're used to going in and setting up your search configuration and you add the fields that you want users to be able to search by, and you add the fields that you want to show as results for users, you'll know that sometimes there's limitations on what gets displayed there. Maybe you have to put in some extra effort to get those fields to look exactly like you need them to look. With this new enhanced search configuration, we provide some labels for you in search config that easily let you make those adjustments directly in configuration. So anywhere you're using something like impl ID and you want that to say student ID instead, it's just a matter of going in and editing the label on search config to get that to show whenever you're doing your searches. In addition to that, there's language support for the fields that you can configure, the new labels that you can configure, as well as like the titles, instructions, and other things that might show on your configuration. Anything, if you are using language values for different languages that users might be accessing your system in, anywhere that you don't specify a value for that, it's just going to drop back to the default that's already there. So how this is represented in the actual configuration. Here's your well-known search configuration page. Here is the new column where you can add the ID and then just reflect it directly in search config, where we have our impl ID field. It's going to have a label of student ID instead. So a way to make things much more user-friendly for your end users and folks using the form without a whole lot of extra effort. Your language overrides, same thing. So if you have languages implemented for your search configuration, you can provide the labels for those particular languages. If you leave one of these blank, it's going to default back to the value that you have specified on the main configuration page. All right, for each of your search config tabs that you can kind of go through, this is the tab that allows you to specify those words, the text for the particular language code that you have applied for this configuration. Set up as many as you need for that. For the results fields, you have that same option. So In your search results, you can specify the language that you need here. Again, anything not defined is going to fall back to the defaults. And then in your search header language, you can also provide titles, page instructions that will show up depending on the language that the user has selected to access as. Again, falling back to defaults if you don't have anything specified there. Before I move on from this one, Jay, any extra stuff to cover on search config?
Nope, you covered it. I'm excited about this one, just because this is a long requested. We should have had. I wish we had this feature a long time ago. So I'm glad that it's finally so easy to just set labels. Hopefully you all like it too. I'm excited about every one of these features. So I should probably stop saying about the individual ones.
Thanks. I should have made this slide a little bit more dramatic and made this, some animation to get these different things to show up, because this seems like a small thing, but again, for us form builders, at least for me, this is kind of a big deal. So there's a notes box that you can type stuff in on the segment field configuration page, which is like, you hook up a field to a data pool record, or you've built out some super complicated visual if for this field, or a developer built a piece of code for you that initializes values or updates values. You've got to either like dig through documents to hope that you documented all this stuff somewhere, or you've got to go hunt down the person that initially did all this and hope that they remember what they did, or you have to spend time like rewiring your brain on the visual if that you're staring at. So it's super handy to just have a little note section here that you can say like, oh, this visual if is supposed to do this thing. So yeah, seems like a small thing. I'm, for whatever reason, super excited to have this in set up here. Another cool thing is this task links. So I think I can kick this one off. There is, for each of your tasks, you have like an open task link, open add task, open evaluate task. And by clicking on those links, it will in a separate tab open that task for you, so that as you're building things out, you can actually see what's going on without having to navigate to wherever your form lives, open it up, see whatever changes you made to it. Super quick access just to check on your progress as you're going through things. Then again, I'll turn it over to Jay if there's anything special to mention about this one.
Nope, just a small quality of life improvement.
Absolutely. All right, honorable mentions. We've already had a lot of experience with our assistant here asking questions along the way. Again, all this stuff was pulled from our environment. Every question that you see me asking it here. So if you don't already have this in your system, I can't encourage you enough to upgrade to the latest versions if you don't have access to the eForms Assistant. Super helpful for form builders just to remember how to do things. You can ask it about the new features. As features are released, you don't have to worry about digging through emails or looking for release notes on things. You can just ask it what's new and what's cool in this environment. For your users, of course, being able to give them instructions on how to fill out forms. The super complicated forms where you have to leave a bunch of instructions or you find people filling them out incorrectly, also super helpful to be able to provide those FAQs to them to be able to get the form filled out without having to make phone calls and emails to you guys to answer questions. Configurable CI, if you missed last month's Lunch and Learn and you really want to see me again do another Lunch and Learn, you can pull up the Lunch and Learn from last month where we went over CCC's continuing education solution, which used configurable CI in that product. And that was a Campus Solutions product. There's like 9 component interfaces involved with that particular solution that were all executed through this new configurable CI tool. So very handy, very cool, very nice for functionals to be able to make small changes to CI logic and be able to rerun a failed process and see that successful, that the changes that you made was work without having to get a developer involved and do a bunch of changes like that. So very awesome tool. And then finally for 3.7, honorable mention is this query view builder. So if you don't have the luxury of a developer that can build a view for you, functionals do have a way to create a query. use the query view builder to actually build a view from that you could leverage in your forms. We always encourage you, if you can, to stick with the developer. If you're able to build a view yourself, that would be the first suggestion we would give you, but this tool is available for you if you need it. So while we wait, Jay, unless there's anything else that you wanted to cover for the 3.75 features, we've got plenty of time for questions. I know the chat's been pretty busy, so.
Nope, I'm just going through answering questions. One question I want to point out by John Orenberger is whether we considered accuracy, environmental, and ethical issues. Yeah, we did. We always do. And we also encourage our clients to consider those as they implement AI solutions. We've worked pretty hard to be as careful about those things as we can. Particularly the eForms assistant, it only leverages data or information that GT publishes and is open to the public, or that clients are explicitly okay with exposing, like frequently asked questions and that kind of thing. It's not going to go and steal, it's not going to plagiarize anybody else's property or work or anything like that. That's a great question. Okay, Gina asked, by any chance was the not less than operator for Visualist fixed? I don't know, but I will find out for you, Gina. I feel like it was, but I don't know for sure. I'll double check.
All right, other questions?
Jay, I have a question, and most customers probably already know this, but just in case, if somebody wants to get onto the latest release, is there how do they do that? And is there anything special that they need to do in order to get the eForms assistant as part of that process?
Yeah, great question. So 3.70 can be applied to any of the 3.58 versions if you're still on 3.58. So you can go straight to 3.70, and then you do need to go to 3.70 to apply 3.75. The upgrades have been pretty straightforward and easier than ever to apply for both 3.70 and 3.75. I'd really recommend applying those as soon as you can. eForms Assistant does require a little bit of setup. Specifically, you need to request a client key and some configuration for each of your environments. Instructions for how to do that are included in the upgrade instructions. So as you're applying 3.70 or 3.75, the instructions on the setup for eForms Assistant is very well documented and detailed there.
And there's also an onboarding session available whenever you get eForms Assistant. We'll help you walk through and show you how to use it and maybe some best practices on how to get your FAQs created.
Yep, that's right. Mike Gardner asked, adding custom CSS looked cool. Could you do the same with JavaScript? That's a great idea. Well, actually, we do it with 3.75. We delivered tools that make it easier than ever to do JavaScript too. It's really technical, so we didn't cover it. But adding a configuration layer to apply JavaScript is a great enhancement idea. So I'll take that back to our team because that's a great idea. But I also want to let you know that even doing it technically is way easier than it's ever been in Forms as well. How does Paulette asked, how does People Tools 8.6.2 affect this? People Tools 8.6.2 doesn't affect eForms. Well, there have been some bugs that we've reported to Oracle on 8.6.2 that Oracle has worked hard with us to fix those, which we really appreciate. So there are some bugs we've seen on 8.6.2, pretty common with these earlier dot releases of a People Tools version. But in terms of 8.6.2 breaking something that wasn't actually a bug by Oracle, we haven't seen anything like that. But if there's another more specific question about 8.6.2, Paulette, please let me know. I'll answer that too. Christina asked, where can we obtain the batch tool? Does this allow a CSV file to be loaded and multiple forms to create at the same time? And does it allow for populating a grid? The batch tool is available on our customer self-service portal, but we could also get you a link to it. If you send in a ticket to the support team, we can point you in the right direction. It comes with your eForms license. There's no additional fee or anything like that. And it does allow you to do both of the things that you mentioned. You can submit multiple forms, and the batch tool can also be used to add rows of data to grids as well.
Yeah, maybe just real quick to clarify on that one. There's the batch tool, and then there's what we discussed earlier with the bulk eForm processing. So just so everyone's clear, those are two separate things.
Yeah. So Sean, someone asked that question earlier. They asked about. That's a good thing to point out. The bulk eForm processor is intended to do things to existing form IDs. The batch tool allows you to mass submit or mass save new form IDs. That's a good distinction. Erica said they just applied 3.7.0 and 3.7.5 back to back, and it went smoothly. That's great. That's our goal, is for it to be as easy as possible. Is there anything, Kim asked, is there anything included in documentation on security changes needed? We do document our roles and permission lists. I don't know if we do like a document that's like a strict compare based on what changed. But if you submit a support ticket, I can point you in the right direction for the best information that we have. And also, it's just good to know that would be helpful for our clients, that we could do more when we do the releases for a security delta document of some kind. Let me make a note of that.
I got it too.
Oh, thank you, Lynette. Okay, Andy asked, any plan to make some type of comment required when an action such as recycle, deny, or pushback is taken? This is, you can configure this actually. Sean, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so you have a couple different options for that. We did it recently. One client requested sort of a way to have the user indicate if they intend to approve or deny the form. So they accomplish that with a drop down in a separate comments box that, if they say they're going to deny, they get a required field box that they put in. There's some button sort of trickery with visual ifs that were used to allow either approve or deny based on what sort of options were made. And then also around validations and some other approaches that you can take. I think if you have any specific needs or you have maybe something unique that you're trying to accomplish, Andy, if you send a request to support, we can get you lined up with some additional help to go through the details.
Paulette asked, can we get a list of the bugs so when we test, we know it already exists? Each release notes includes all the bugs that were fixed in the last release. And then we can get you a list of bugs on. There have been a couple bugs reported on 3.7.5, which we've fixed and have fixes ready to go. But when you're ready to apply 3.7.5, if you just send us a support ticket saying, hey, about to install 3.7.5, what bugs should we be aware of? We can provide a list to you. Yep. And additionally, what we will be doing is, as we find bugs that are significantly impactful to a majority of clients, we will be including that list in the upgrade instructions. So as you apply 3.7.5, there will be a section that says like mandatory fixes or something to that effect, and it will include the list of the things that you definitely will need on top of 3.7.5. Which, that's a good note. If you've already applied 3.7.5, there are there's probably a fix or two that you might need. So please submit a ticket so we can get those to you proactively. We're going to be changing the documentation early next week for those mandatory fixes. So that's not in place yet. Okay, thank you, Kim. And Donna commented, GT helped us to add that functionality to our CI. Nice, that's awesome. Thanks for the testimonial. Christine asked, if you haven't installed 3.75, should you re-download it? It's a good idea. There was a small change depending on when you downloaded it, but getting the latest is good. And next week, like I said, we'll have the updated instructions to include those mandatory fixes. So I would probably wait till, I mean, Wednesday next week or just after Thanksgiving. We'll have it all in place by then.
All right, great questions. Thank you for your questions. Let's see, got one more.
All right, Jamie asked a question. Are there any plans to ease form development? Often the forms we develop are similar, and it would be helpful if we could pull in the set details from a current form and edit from there. Yeah, we get asked this all the time. Basically, some kind of cloning feature for forms. We haven't done it because it's actually way harder than it sounds. But we'll make a note that it was requested again. I would really like to see that feature. It's really challenging when you get into details like, what about visual if IDs? Are we going to clone those? Are we going to regenerate those? So it sounds simple, but it's just hard, unfortunately, which is why we haven't done it yet. But thank you for letting us know that you would like it. And I see lots of thumbs up, so we'll make a note that it was well liked in today's session. Up to 7 now. Hannah asked, what if the clone feature, we're up to 15 now, you guys are just bullying me at this point. So Hannah asked, what if the clone feature is just the skeleton of the pages, segments, etc., not the visual if? That would make it easier. So if just the skeleton would be helpful, that does reduce scope significantly. So we'll take that back for prioritization internally. Yeah, that makes it way easier.
All right, I snuck in a thumbs up also just to give Jay more of a hard time.
Thank you, Sean.
Of course.
I call Sean Shawnee B and he hates it, so it's fair. Mary Hawker-Smith asks, is there a plan to make a form compare tool between the same form between environments? Yes, actually, there are plans to deliver a transporter 2.0, is what we're calling it, that will include a lot more helpful information, a lot more granular control during migration time. Joanna asked, or she mentioned, I reuse segments a lot across forms, but it does mean that segment must be 100% exact the same on both forms, having the added ability to start with X and add stuff to save as Y. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All right, I'll do a last call for questions. Continue to give your thumbs up on the other requests. Not seeing any. Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone. All right, well, let me mention some of the upcoming Lunch and Learns. Again, if you didn't get a chance to attend last month's, I would encourage you. Not that I'm being biased or anything, but that was a pretty fun project for myself and the rest of the team. So check that one out. Coming up in December, we've got our From Spreadsheets to Actionable Insights, how North Dakota transformed intern funding management. So their OMB replaced a complex funding process with eForms and insights boards, streamlining approvals and tracking. Darren's going to show how automation turned a 52-column spreadsheet into a real-time auditable workflow. And then coming up in January, we've got our 5 common PeopleSoft errors and the mindset to solve them, presented by Gideon Taylor. So practical insights into troubleshooting and issue resolution for complex systems like PeopleSoft from an expert who does it daily. So be sure to tune into those. Training, of course, always available. Upcoming training that we have available, PS Insights and Analytics on December 1st. This is a great training if you are interested in creating dashboards, if you've implemented Oracle delivered dashboards in your system and always wanted to know how to build one from scratch. This training will show you how to do that. BI Publisher on December 4th. If you've had the pleasure of working with BI Publisher, then sometimes you know it's a fun tool to work with. So join this training session if you want some extra practice and training on that. And then finally on December 9th, we've got our search records training. QR codes there will take you straight to the sign-up form if you're ready to register for any of these today. So make use of that, and I will stall for like 5 more seconds so you all can whip out your phones and scan that QR code and start registering for training.
While you do that, Sean, we had another question, if that's okay.
Okay.
Andrea asked if there are any requests out there to add to be able to configurably make search fields required. Not via configuration. It's not a feature yet. You can do it in code, but I have a note down for that enhancement request. It's a good idea. Sorry, Sean. I will let you finish.
That's great. I'm actually going to turn it back over to John to talk about Ignite.
Yeah. Hey, great session, guys. Thanks a lot, Jay and Sean. Thanks also to everybody that joined and for all the questions and comments in the chat. Great to close out on this. We are really excited to announce the GT Ignite 2026. So this is our first ever user community event. GT Ignite is being done in partnership with the HUG, and it is taking place in March in Orlando, right alongside the Alliance Conference. So just like you want to pull down the latest release of the software, you're going to want to go and register for Alliance. And when you're going through the registration process, set yourself up to join us for GT Ignite. If you got value out of the session today, then GT Ignite is going to be great. It's going to bring together success stories, best practices, technical deep dives, and more exclusive content like we walked through today. So whether you're an existing customer or if you're someone who's kind of contemplating being a GT customer, then this is a must-attend event. And if you're heading down to Orlando, then you can fold it right into your activities at the Alliance Conference. So head over and register today. And thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it.